6th of January 2023. This Skidmark, also one of those what the fuck moments. I want to talk about the ceasefire in the Donbass. I am actually stunned. The Western world is totally enveloped in the Russophobia. Actually not a phobia, hate, Russian hate. And I did a Skidmark on that. I find it almost tragic. The whole thing started with the Patriarch Kirill, head of the Eastern Orthodox Church, when he called for a ceasefire in Ukraine for the Orthodox Christmas on 7 January 2023. The Christian Orthodox Christmas is celebrated according to the Julian calendar, which run 2 weeks behind the Gregorian calendar, most widely used. So the Patriarch made the call for the ceasefire, and the next day Putin issued instructions to Shoigu about the ceasefire, and they published it, and you will not believe the responses. I'm going to read you this American response. The US State Department spokesman Ned Price on the Christmas truce. From our point of view, there is one word that best describes it: cynicism. We have little faith in the intentions behind this announcement. The Russians will seek to use any temporary pause in the fighting to rest, re-equip, regroup, and eventually continue again. So in that sense, it cannot be considered a ceasefire. Unfortunately, they have given us no reason to believe anything they offer. And the poster of this added, "Fuck you, you lying sack of shit. What have you said or done to show any level of legitimacy or honesty? Prick." And I must say, that is a very accurate representation of my thoughts too. And then we get, after these things started coming out, Dmitry Medvedev released a statement. Now, for those of you that know him, he's a guy that does not mince his words. Deputy Chairman of Russian Security Council Dmitry Medvedev wrote, "The Ukrainians were given the hand of Christian charity for the great feast. Their leaders rejected it. I think most of our servicemen taking part in the special military operation exhaled quietly when they heard about the main Ukrainian forces' refusal to ceasefire on Christmas Day. Less trouble and less slyness. The people deprived of the opportunity to go to church are pitiable. Pigs, Ukrainian authorities and military officers, on the other hand, have no faith and no innate sense of gratitude. They understand only brute force and shrilly demand food from their masters. This is what the training is based on, and it will be continued by the Western pig herders. Even the illiterate German grandmother Baerbock, the German foreign minister, and a number of other watchdogs of the European pigsty have managed to yammer on about the unacceptability of a truce. Well, successors of the Nazis never spared either people or animals. They are used to it." Now, that is typical Medvedev, and I can sense his disgust and dismay in this. From me personally, I think seeing the way the war is going for Ukraine, this was a very good opportunity for the leadership to give the men on the front a breather. I see videos and I read posts on Telegram of the conditions in the Ukrainian trenches. It is horrific. The soldiers are complaining that the dead and the wounded is not removed. They are sometimes up to their knees in mud and slush and feces. It is horrible. I have seen some of the videos of the latest guys that surrendered or was captured by the Russians. There are old men, 60 or so, and there are kids, children. I don't believe those guys are 16 years old. That is against a lot of international laws. Where is the Western watchdogs? But by now, we should be used to the hypocrisy from the West. And I expect anything from them. They have totally committed themselves to the Zazis regime in Kiev, and I find it disgusting to say the least. Now let's look at some other responses on this. And we're going to start it off. Putin instructed Shoigu to introduce a ceasefire along the entire line of contact in Ukraine from 1200 on January 6 to 2400 on January 7. And then Biden says, Putin is trying to find some oxygen by offering a 36-hour ceasefire in Ukraine. What the fuck is that? What the fuck is that? But you can't expect anything else from a senile geriatric. And from the Ukraine, the response was, any negotiation process with the Russian Federation were rejected. This was stated by the Secretary of the National Security and Defense Council in Ukraine, Oleksiy Danilov, commenting on Russia's proposal for a temporary ceasefire. But these fucking dogs, they are sitting comfortable and well in their pads in Kiev and so forth. They're not in the trenches on the front line. And then from Germany, they took into account Putin's order on a temporary truce. We have taken note of this announcement. Any cessation of hostilities contributes to the preservation of human lives. As before, Russia must completely withdraw its troops from Ukraine, and thus the war can be ended at any moment, the representative of the German cabinet said. Fuck! This was a ceasefire for Christmas Day for the Orthodox people. And listen where this fucking thing's head is going again. Russia must withdraw. Fuck! These people deserve everything that is happening to them. Everything. The fact that their economy is fucked, that their industries is fucked, that is exactly what they deserve. And then this is from Pushilin. The decision concerns a ceasefire of initiative fire or offensive action on our part. But this does not mean that we will not respond to the provocations of the enemy, or we will give some chance to the enemy during these festive hours to improve their position on the line of contact. And that's exactly what happened. The ceasefire started at 12 o'clock today, and around about at 3 o'clock, they decided it's a good time to attack Solidar. And it turned into a fucking nightmare and a slaughterhouse. The Ukrainians lost all their vehicles. Tanks, armored personnel, carriers, everything. And then they started fleeing on foot. And they were mowed down by MLRS and by drones with grenades. It was a bloodbath. I don't understand those people. And then there's this comment. The decision of our president as an Orthodox person refers precisely to Orthodox people for whom it is important to go to church to defend the service on the feast of the Nativity of Christ. For obvious reasons, we do not consider the leadership of the rest of Ukraine to be Orthodox. Well, I can tell you that I am so disgusted. This was a Goodwill sign and a Goodwill gesture. And what did the Ukrainians and the West do? They spit it on the Russians. Let's see where this is going to end for them. From what I read and from what I see, it doesn't look good. But in any case, I want to wish all those Orthodox Russians and Orthodox Ukrainians a Merry Christmas, and may they find peace. Please give me a like and a subscribe and share the thing. So especially share to Twitter. Thank you.